Kobe Bryant has one MVP. How crazy is that? There are a lot of people who believe it's egregious that a player of his caliber only had one MVP throughout his 20-year career. Here are some of the players that have won more MVPs than Kobe. Bob Pettit, Moses Malone, Karl Malone, Steve Nash, Steph Curry, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. These are players that no reasonable person would put over Kobe in any all-time list, but yet they have more MVP awards than Kobe. The biggest criticism that the MVP award gets is that narrative is too much of a factor when choosing such an important award for a player's career, and that it doesn't necessarily mean that the player that won the MVP was the best player in the league. We can use this season as an example. Our eyes tell us that Steph Curry was the best player in the league, with the ridiculous things that he was doing individually. Not just for the points he was putting up, but the way he was getting his points. However, Nikola Jokic was deserving of that MVP, as all the advanced metrics suggest that he was a player that was the most indispensable for his team if you look at his win shares and the value over replacement player metric. And obviously the fact that the Denver Nuggets had a better record than the Warriors plays a big factor as well. And then we have the factor that sometimes the voters just don't know what they're doing. Like when some writer thought that Allen Iverson was more deserving of the MVP award than Shaq in 2000. Major brain fart there. So there's that as well. Now there are some people who think Kobe should have 3 or even 4 MVPs for his career. We're going to see realistically how many MVPs Kobe should have had for his career. Now let's keep this in mind. I'm not talking which seasons Kobe was the best player in the league. I'm strictly talking about which seasons Kobe met the quote-unquote criteria for being the MVP for a particular season. And remember, this is coming from a guy whose favorite player is Kobe. He's been my guy since before he was winning championships. Yeah, that long. So let's dive into this. So first, let's eliminate all the seasons where we can safely say that Kobe did not deserve the MVP. We can first eliminate the seasons from 1997 to 1999, as he was just a bench player for the first 2 years of his career, and in 99, he wasn't averaging 20 points per game yet. We can also eliminate from 2014 to 2016, as those were the post-Achilles injury seasons. We can also scratch off 2000 and 2002, 2004, and 2005. In 2000, Shaq won the MVP, and there's no question he was deserving of that award. Then in 2001 and 2002, although Kobe was one of the top players in the league and was a huge part of the Lakers' success, Shaq was a man of the team and the Lakers' best player. Now that doesn't mean that we can make the stupid claim that Kobe was carried. It just means that since Kobe wasn't the best player for his own team, he shouldn't be the MVP of the league. In 2004, Kobe had an off year due to the sexual assault case that took him away from the court for a good chunk of the season. Then in 2005, Kobe and the Lakers missed the playoffs, so there's no way he wins MVP that season. But don't worry, there's no shame in missing the playoffs, as there has been many NBA greats that has missed the playoffs in their prime. Check out the link above, where I list all those NBA legends that have missed the playoffs. And we also can scratch off 2008 because that was the year he won the MVP. So that leaves us with the seasons that you see on your screen there. So let's go ahead and just scratch off 2007. Now I know he was the scoring champion that season and had an historic stretch in the month of March. He is only one of 3 players in the history of the NBA to average over 40 points per game for a full calendar month. He is also the only player since the NBA/ABA merger to have accomplished that. Not Michael Jordan, not James Harden, not Kevin Durant. No one has been able to put up those numbers for a full month in the modern NBA. There was a 6-game stretch during that month where he scored 65 points, 50 points, 60 points, 50 points, 43 points, 23 points, and then back up to 53 points. Those are Wilt Chamberlain numbers right there. He had a total of 10 games where he scored over 50 points that season. That's the third most by a single player in NBA history. Only Wilt Chamberlain has had more 50-point games in a season. I mean, it's just crazy. So trust me, I get what he did that season. There's no question he was the best player in the league that season. The problem is that the Lakers finished 42-40 for the season. Just 2 games over 500. There was 2 different stretches where the Lakers had a 6-game losing streak and then a 7-game losing streak. And for the last 10 games of the season, the Lakers finished 4-6. Listen, I get the Lakers had a crappy supporting cast, and you can't expect Kobe to carry this Lakers squad to 50 games with how loaded the West was that season. However, to be the MVP, you need a better record than that. I mean, we lost to the Charlotte Bobcats twice, the Milwaukee Bucks, who only won 28 games, twice as well. We also lost to non-playoff teams like the New Orleans Hornets and the New York Knicks twice each. So we could have had a better record, and maybe he gets a better shot at the MVP. So although he was amazing that year, all-time great that year, I don't think we can give it to him for that season. Now let's get into the 2010 decade. I'm talking 2011, 2012, and 2013. I don't really hear many of us Kobe fans who argue that he deserved the MVP on those seasons. In 2011, it seemed like Kobe was running out of gas. Now remember, he was just coming off of 3 straight finals appearances and an Olympic appearance in 2008. That's a lot of basketball that he had played in just 3 years. So it seemed like Kobe was pacing himself in the 2011 season so he could be ready for the playoffs and to get a crack at a three-peat. So for that season, he averaged 25.3 points per game, 5.1 rebounds per game, and 4.7 assists per game. For his standards, there was nothing really special that he did in that season. There was his one game against the Phoenix Suns where he had 42 points on 48% shooting, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists. And then he had a 17-point fourth quarter against the Warriors that was pretty cool to watch. Other than that, nothing extraordinary for his standards. As far as in 2012 and 2013, there isn't many players in the history of the sport that could have topped what LeBron James was doing in those 2 seasons. He was putting up some pretty big numbers. And 2013, with the Miami Heat winning 66 games, and the Lakers struggling to make the playoffs, it's hard to make a case for Kobe being the MVP in those seasons. However, even his advanced age of 33 and 34 years old that he was in those seasons, he was still arguably a top 3 player in the league. And that's still very impressive. Now we get to the 2 seasons where he won the title, in 2009 and in 2010. So this is basically the same thing as we discussed for the 2012 and 2013 seasons. LeBron James was just putting up numbers that are hard to argue against. The one stat that really shuts down any argument that we can have is the fact that for both of those seasons, the one-man show that the Cleveland Cavaliers were had a better record than the Lakers, who were obviously a very deep team. Even in 2009, when the Lakers won 65 games, LeBron James led the Cavs to 66 wins. Then in 2010, the Lakers won 57 games in the regular season and the Cavs won 61. The second best player for the Lakers, as we know, was Pau Gasol, and for the Cavaliers, it was Mo Williams. Big difference. So we can safely say that LeBron James was more valuable to his team than what Kobe was for the Lakers in those 2 seasons. Now, if you want to talk about who was the better player, I will say this. I give the nod to Kobe Bean Bryant. Now, you may be rolling your eyes at me, and you may have already clicked the thumbs down button for what I just said. I might not be the most credible person in the NBA world. So let me quote from a Sports Illustrated article from 2010, written by Jack McCallum. He was a writer for Sports Illustrated for decades, and he is a best-selling author for many great books, which you can see in your screen. Here are some of the things he said in the article. Quote, "Let me propose another simple but often overlooked reason that Bryant remains superior to LeBron. Kobe is a better basketball player, not a better athlete, which sometimes gets lost. A better basketball player. He dribbles better, passes better, has more ways to score, and understands the game better. Which is not to say that LeBron is inferior in any of those areas. He is great, but he's not as good as Bryant." End of quote. Then in the article, he got an interesting quote from Grant Hill, who had to guard Kobe in that conference finals in 2010. He said, quote, "LeBron has a pull-up jumper and he takes you to the rim. He has 2 pitches, and trust me, both of them are great. But Kobe's like the guy with all the pitches. He brings the fastball, his changeup, gives you something on the corner. LeBron will overpower you, but you might know what's coming. With Kobe, you're never comfortable." End of quote. They're basketball intangibles that, unfortunately for basketball accountants, don't have a stat for. But make no mistake about it, it could be the difference between your team winning or losing. That's why Kobe was winning the championship, while LeBron was winning the MVP. Kobe has always said that he would rather win the title than the MVP award. Now from 2011 onward, this was LeBron's league, no question about it. But in the 2000s decade, Kobe was king. If you would like to see the article for yourself, I have the link in the bio. Now we get to the 2 seasons where Kobe has a very strong case of winning the MVP, 2003 and 2006. Let's start with the obvious one, the 2005/06 season. There's no question that this is the season that a lot of NBA fans say that Kobe Bryant was absolutely robbed an MVP award. Steve Nash won his 2nd straight MVP award that season. What's even more maddening is that Kobe Bryant finished 4th in MVP voting that season. LeBron James and Dirk Nowitzki finished ahead of Kobe, although Kobe did have the 2nd most first place finishes. Now, what some of the media members have said about why they chose Steve Nash over Kobe Bryant is that the Phoenix Suns had a better record than the Lakers. And that's considering the fact that the Suns were without their 2nd best player, Amari Stoudemire, for the whole season. The Suns won 54 games compared to the Lakers that won just 45 games. Now, I'm sure Kobe Bryant would have loved to switch places with Steve Nash. Even without Amari Stoudemire, the Suns had 6 total players that was averaging over 10 points per game. They also had Shawn Marion, who was an all-star that season. The Suns were only one of 5 teams that had multiple all-stars in the roster. In fact, Shawn Marion led his own team in win shares, value over replacement player, and PER. Steve Nash barely finished in the top 10 in win shares that season. Isn't that interesting? How would have he done with the roster that Kobe Bryant had to play with? So now we're going to see the quality of teammates that Kobe had that season. We are just going to look at the starting lineup. So here's the career points per game average that Kobe's teammates had. only Lamar Odom averaged over 10 points per game for his career. Notice we also have the number of years those players played in the league. That is a good indication of the type of quality player that they were. There's only 2 players that was good enough to be employed for more than 10 seasons. And finally, we have the number of seasons where they were a starter for at least half the games they played for a season. We see that with the exception of Lamar Odom, Kobe Bryant's teammates consisted of glorified bench players. You think Steve Nash is carrying that team to 50 wins? Would have anyone? Would have Michael Jordan done so? Let's look at his teammates in 1987 when he averaged 37.1 points per game for the season. We see that his team had a 40-42 record. Yes, he had a losing record that season. Now you can't blame him, as his teammates also consisted of players that didn't last long in the league. Charles Oakley was his best teammate, and he was a good quality starter throughout his career. However, scoring was not his strength, so Michael Jordan had the burden to carry his team every game offensively that season. And just for kicks, let's look at the teammates LeBron James had in the 2007 season when he carried his team to a finals appearance. We see that although this isn't a super team, but he had good quality starters. He had players that were able to average over 10 points per game for their career, and they all had long careers in the NBA. He even had a 2-time All-Star in Zydrunas Ilgauskas. So the numbers prove that not even LeBron James had to carry such bad teammates at any point of his career. The one other player that had a similar situation was Allen Iverson. Look, for example, his teammates in 2001. So there's no question that he didn't have teammates that were gifted in scoring, so he had to carry them in that end. But he did have teammates that had long careers, and he even had a teammate that was a first ballot Hall of Fame player. Kobe did not have that luxury. So instead of getting points taken away for his team's record, that should have furthered his case even more for his team to have a respectable win-loss record. Yes, it's true that Dirk Nowitzki and LeBron James finished above Kobe in win shares, but it's hard to make a respectable argument that they would have done any better if they were to switch teams with Kobe and play with his teammates all year. So by a strict definition, Kobe has a strong argument for being, now listen closely, the most valuable player in the league. As far as the next factor, we have the all-important narrative factor that Kobe Bryant certainly passes over any player that season. Here's a test to prove that. Can you think of any game or moment that stands out in your brain right now without looking it up for Steve Nash, LeBron James, or Dirk Nowitzki in 2006? For Steve Nash, it just might be that he won the MVP that season. For LeBron James, you might think of that season being his career high in points per game. And he was a legitimate candidate for the MVP that season, there's no question about it. His averages of 31.4 points per game, 7 rebounds, and 6.6 assists per game is something I'm not just glossing over. For Dirk, you certainly think of his finals run in the postseason. But for the regular season award that the MVP is, nothing for Dirk. Now as far as for Kobe Bryant, to this day, we still and always will remember his 81-point game, aka the second highest points scored in a game in history. We remember his game against Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks, where he scored 62 points in 3 quarters and outscored the Western Conference champions by himself. Up to that point, he was only the 5th player in NBA history to average over 35 points per game for a season. It was also the 8th highest points per game average in NBA history, as well as the 3rd highest points per game average for any player not named Wilt Chamberlain. His total of 6 games where he scored 50 points or more was the 5th most in NBA history up to that point. In the month of January, he had the insane average of 43.4 points per game, which was the most by any not-will player in history. When you think of the 2006 season, 15 years ago, you still think of Kobe Bryant, and that has to mean something. There's one more thing we have to consider, and that's the fact that Kobe Bryant was once again the best player in the league. You don't believe me again? Here's what the head coach of the MVP, Steve Nash, said to Sports Illustrated in 2006. Quote, "I'm not saying that he's the most valuable player, but he's certainly the best player, and is not even close. He is utterly dominant." End of quote. Translation: just so I don't piss off my fans and my own player, I'll give the politically correct answer, but even I know he's the most deserving of the MVP. Then the coach of the Los Angeles Clippers, Mike Dunleavy, also said this to Sports Illustrated in 2006. Quote, "From a talent standpoint, he may be better than Jordan was at this stage of his career." End of quote. That's what many of us were saying when witnessing Kobe Bryant that season, that he was just as good, if not better, than his airness. Yes, before we were having the daily discussion of who's better, Jordan or LeBron, people were debating Kobe or Jordan. So let's see. Kobe wasn't just the most valuable player for his team that season, but also the best basketball player in the world. So the verdict for that season is that the league is guilty of thievery for robbing Kobe Bryant an MVP award that season. And finally, we have the 2003 season. Now this season is arguably his finest statistical season of his career. He averaged 30 points per game, 6.9 rebounds per game, 5.9 assists per game, and 2.2 steals per game. This season was his career high in rebounds per game, steals per game, and in three-point shooting percentage. This was also the first season where Shaq was no longer the best player in the team. Kobe led the team in points per game, assists per game, win shares, and value over replacement player. The Lakers won 50 games that season, which is pretty low for their standards. I would bet that was a big factor in determining whether or not Kobe was deserving of the MVP. The fact that the Lakers had an off year surely didn't help his case. But in my opinion, the main reason why Kobe Bryant did not win the MVP was the competition that he had to face to win that award. Here were the top 7 finalists for the MVP that season. Number 1, Tim Duncan. Number 2, Kevin Garnett. 3 was Kobe Bryant. 4, Tracy McGrady. 5, Shaquille O'Neal. 6, Allen Iverson. And 7, Dirk Nowitzki. All these players were in their primes, and most of them put out career numbers that season. Tim Duncan led a rather young and starless team to a league-best 60 wins. Tony Parker was the Spurs' second leading scorer, and he only averaged 15 points per game that season. He was only 20 years old at the time. Tim Duncan finished in the top 5 in points per game, rebounds per game, blocks per game, win shares, box plus minus, value over replacement player, PER, and defensive rating. I mean, it's hard to argue against what Tim Duncan did that season. We're talking about one of the 10 greatest players of all time having one of his best individual seasons. Now, as far as Kevin Garnett, we remember that he won the MVP award the following season in 2004. But look at how similar those numbers from his MVP season look compared to his numbers in 2003. Those are crazy numbers. In fact, in the 2003 season, he became only the 3rd player in history to lead his team in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks in the same season. The only other players that have achieved that is Dave Cowens in 1978, Scottie Pippen in 1995, and Giannis in 2017. Then we have the season that Tracy McGrady had in 2003. That year, he led the league with 32.1 points per game, while chipping in 6.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, and 1.7 steals. He also shot 38.6% of his threes. The only other players in NBA history to have averaged at least 32 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 5.5 assists per game for a season is Michael Jordan in 1989 and 1990, and James Harden in 2019 and 2020. And T-Mac finished 4th in the MVP voting. When it comes to talent level, NBA fans had absolutely no reason to complain. This was one of the tightest MVP races in history. So maybe the fact that Kobe Bryant didn't win the MVP this season isn't so egregious after all. Kevin Garnett fans and Tracy McGrady fans has every right to say that their favorite player got robbed too. However, let's make the case for Kobe anyways. He finished 2nd in points per game and in triple doubles with 5 for the season. He was 3rd in value over replacement player and 5th in win shares, PER, and box plus minus. In the month of February, he had 9 straight games where he scored at least 40 points, including 2 games where he scored over 50 points. The last player to have had that type of scoring streak was Michael Jordan, when he also had 9 straight games of scoring at least 40 points in 1986. Wilt Chamberlain is the only other player to have topped that. For the month of February, he averaged 40.6 points per game, which we already mentioned how rare of an accomplishment that is. He had a total of 3 50-point games for the season. That included a game where he scored 51 points in just 3 quarters against the Denver Nuggets. He did not play at all in the 4th quarter of that game, so it's safe to assume that if he did play the full game, he would have scored over 60 points. And in the game against Seattle, he made a then NBA record of 12 three-pointers. It wasn't until 2016 that Steph Curry was able to beat that record. And even in this era of three-point shooting, only Curry, Klay Thompson, and Zach LaVine have been able to match or beat that record. So Kobe Bryant had an absolute strong case for being the MVP for this season, as he accomplished some historic things. This season, along with the 2006 season, is my favorite version of Kobe. It seemed like every game he played, I saw something I've never seen before or have seen since. When it comes to entertainment value, this was peak Kobe. So for literally any other season, Kobe would have been a lock to win the MVP. However, for this crazy and wild season, I can't complain too much about this snub. So I believe Kobe should have won at least 2 MVPs, and you can make a case for 3. However, 3 is the most I'm willing to go. Now, if we're talking what years Kobe was the best player in the world, I'm going to say 2003 and then 2006 to 2010. So we're talking a total of at least 6 years. You hear that, Nick Wright? So I plan on putting more Kobe content in the future. So if you enjoy these topics, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe and like this video. And if not, I appreciate you listening. Till next time.